Following this weekend at the box office, Disney's live action remake of Snow White is finally outside of the top 10 list. Now, that might sound like the movie has been doing a lot better than it actually was, but a movie of this scale should have held the number one spot at the box office and probably held on to the top 10 list for some time now. But the fact of the matter is, the only reason this was actually sticking on the top 10 list is because there wasn't a whole lot of competition out there. But still, this was a movie that did enjoy a number one spot during its opening weekend because there wasn't any competition. And before it came out, I thought it was probably going to enjoy several weeks at the number one spot until Minecraft came out, because that was the first movie coming out after Snow White released that was going to have a similar target audience. But no, Snow White was supplanted at the number one spot after its first weekend when A Working Man released, which is bizarre considering that was an R-rated action movie. I didn't think that was going to overthrow Snow White in its second weekend, but Snow White had a steep box office drop during its second weekend, so things have not been going good for it, and it's just been kind of wallowing low spots at the top 10 list until now it's finally kicked out. But one of the things that I think is kind of interesting about this is one of the movies that's kicking it off of the top 10 list is a 20-year-old re-release. So going over to Box Office Mojo, you can see domestic opening for it is $42.2 million. Now, Star Wars Revenge of the Sith has a 20th anniversary re-release this weekend. Now, to be fair, it's making $42.2 million globally during this re-release. So that's globally compared to just the domestic total, because domestically it's $25.2 million. But still, the fact of the matter is globally, this is able to bring in the same amount during its opening weekend what Snow White was able to do domestically during its opening weekend. Still, I'll point it out, not a apples to apples comparison, but it's just ridiculous how much they've actually spent on Snow White and how little it's actually generated for the studio. Because to have a re-release like this come close to making the same amount of money during its re-release compared to what Snow White made at the box office, I would say is nothing short of embarrassing for Disney, especially considering Snow White was supposed to be a big movie for them. I mean, that's the remake of the movie that essentially made Disney to what it is today, and even then it really just had this result to it. I'm not going to go into too much detail on the results of why Snow White did so badly at the box office, because I've made enough videos on this channel talking about it. I mostly just want to focus on how much it's actually made and what's the potential ramifications for it, because one of the things I was thinking about when I was looking at this was how big of a bomb is it actually? So I did find this article right here, and this isn't necessarily the best source though, because there's a lot of lists that highlight box office bombs and what the biggest box office bombs of all time are. So you can take this with a pinch of salt, but the fact of the matter is these movies on this list are huge failures, and Snow White will probably end up on a list like this in the near future. So this is coming from The Gamer. The title of this article is 17 biggest box office bombs of all time. So just scrolling down here, you can see Wonder Woman 1984. That was a $118 to $161 million loss for the studio. Tomorrowland, $120 to $150 million loss. Joker Folie à Deux, $150 to $200 million loss. You kind of get the idea. But scrolling all the way down to the bottom of this list at the number one spot, you have John Carter, that estimated to have lost Disney $250 to $255 million. So going back over to Snow White, on some of the more conservative estimates for this movie, it cost around $270 million in order for them to produce, and then another $70 million in order for them to market and distribute the film. And so far, worldwide, it's made less than $200 million at the box office. So got the calculator pulled up. So let's just assume that those conservative estimates are true. So $270 million budget and $70 million to market it. That's $340 million spend for this movie. Now, we all know that it's actually much higher than that. It was probably closer to the $450 million. Let's just say $350 for the budget of the movie, because it did go way over budget, and then another $100 million to market it, probably $150 million. But I'm being generous to them right now. So let's just say it's $340 million is what they spent on this movie. And since theaters take half of it, that means they need to double this at the box office in order to break even. That would make it $680 million. Now, of course, international screenings, the studio gets less of the box office, and you can see right here, it's made most of its money, 56.1% of its money at the global box office. But let's just, and they usually take like around, I don't know, 40, you get, the studio gets 40% of that, but let's just assume it's 50% all around. So they need to make $680 million in order to just break even if I'm going to put everything in Snow White's favor. Now, if this was able to make $200 million at the global box office before it finally leaves the theaters, so let's just subtract 200 from that, that still puts this movie $480 million in the hole when it's all said and done. That would be comfortably at the number one spot as the worst box office bombs of all time. Something that I knew this was probably going to be a huge failure for the studio before it even came out, but I didn't think it was going to be this bad. I thought it was probably going to make like maybe $400 or $500 million, nowhere near enough for it to actually break even, but still a lot better off than what we're seeing with not even making $200 million at the global box office. And things are also bad for it too, just because it's going to be some time before it can actually generate some revenue for the studio. So this article from Forbes is talking about it. It starts off just kind of highlighting a lot of the problems in the lead up to it, basically pointing the blame at Rachel Zegler herself, because everyone who's been following this knows that she's a large reason why the movie has not been successful. But let me just see if I can find this point right here. So now less than 4 weeks after the $270 million budgeted Snow White made an underwhelming $42.2 million in its opening weekend, the film officially dropped out of the top 10 at the domestic box office on Sunday, posting a domestic tally of $100,000 from 610 North American venues on Friday, a theater count down significantly from 1650 theaters last weekend. The film ended its fifth frame Sunday with an estimated take of $431,000 per the numbers to finish at number 14. Should the numbers hold this weekend, earnings will up Snow White's to $85.7 million domestically to date, coupled with the film's international ticket sales of $109.4 million. Snow White estimated worldwide box office stands at $195.1 million before prints and advertisements. That's kind of the extra $70 million that I put on the budget. That was reported, I believe, by Variety when the movie came out. We don't know for sure what it is. It could be higher. It's most likely higher than what that is. But like I said, when I was doing my math, I'm just trying to give as much leeway to Disney as possible in regards to them making money on this movie. Actually, let's just go back a minute. So let's just say it is probably closer to the $350 million budget for us, and it probably is closer. There, I messed it up. Probably is closer to $100 million in order to advertise and stuff like that for us. So that's $450 million. So times two, that's $900 million that they need to make in order to just break even. They made around $200 million at the box office, so they're around $700 million short for this movie. So yeah, $750 million nearly that they've lost on this movie. The obvious next step for Snow White will be a run on digital streaming via premium video on demand. While some studios have as short as an 18-day window from the time their films open in theaters to arriving on paid video on demand. Lionsgate, for example, rushed Jason Statham's A Working Man to digital video in less than 3 weeks. Disney has a strict 60 theatrical to paid video on demand window. Universal Studios 2 has pushed some titles onto a paid video on demand 18 days after release, and some Warner Brothers and Paramount Picture releases, even hit titles, have appeared as soon as a month after opening in theaters. Snow White, meanwhile, will have to languish in theaters for at least 3 more weeks before Disney can open up a new revenue stream with digital video purchases and rentals on paid video on demand. I don't know if that's really going to help them. I'm sure once they put it on Disney Plus, there's probably going to be some people who didn't see it just watching it out of curiosity to see how bad the movie actually is going to be. But I don't think there's going to be a huge demand for people to rent it at home. Maybe there's people out there who will pay to rent it from some other service if it's on those other services and not free to stream on Disney Plus. But I'm not really counting on that making up the difference for what they lost. Like I said, conservatively, they're well over $400 million that they're down. I don't think they're going to be making that much paid video on demand, at least not anytime soon. The cruel irony for Snow White, of course, is that the R-rated Working Man, a crime thriller with fewer potential customers in theaters with its restricted rating, not only knocked the Disney family film out of the top 10 spot over 1 week, after 1 week, but the film started enjoying an extra revenue stream a mere 15 days after its opening frame with its swift paid video on demand debut. Yeah, so this is a movie that is an utter disaster for Disney, and I think a lot of it's not, I'm not going to say it's 100% Rachel Zegler's fault. I've said that before on this channel. I think there's a lot of factors in play here, but I think Rachel Zegler's rhetoric and some of the stuff she said behind the scenes probably are attribute to probably a couple $100 million loss for this movie. Compare that to The Little Mermaid when that came out. Halle Bailey, it was a lot better in front of the camera before, or in a lot of the press tours and other things like that before the movie came out. And I believe that ended its theatrical run at around $500 million, $550 million, somewhere in that range. I think this could have seen something similar if Rachel Zegler came across as a lot more likable, but as it stands, she was just kind of mouthing off, and everything we've heard since this movie has released, it suggests that she's going to have a tough time building a career in Hollywood following this, because everything that she's been in hasn't really succeeded, or if it has had some modest success, it wasn't attributed to her. It was just attributed to other factors. I'm thinking The Hunger Games, for instance. That movie did okay, but it wasn't because of Rachel Zegler. She just happened to be in that movie. And with a lot of her toxicity behind the scenes, or outside of the filming of the movie and just in front of cameras and on social media, I'm thinking a lot of studios are looking at her and figuring like, well, she's just not worth all the hassle that she can bring. She's clearly not liked by audiences. So if we hire her, it's just going to probably be more harm than good. So I don't see her having much of a career after this, or at least not going to be at the same scale that she's enjoyed the last several years, when she was relatively obscure and just kind of got put in a bunch of stuff before audiences really got a chance to know her. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Do you think this movie could have done better if Rachel Zegler was better outside of filming or in front of the cameras? Or do you think this movie was pretty much just dead on arrival? Comment below, let me know. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there, because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.